Hey remodelers and custom builders, this is part 2 in the Remove Yourself from Sales 2 video series, which is the 5-step framework, and we are jumping into step number 4. If you missed steps 1 through 3, go back to the last video and check that out, but we are picking up here, which is train and manage. So we need to bring somebody on, and we need to make sure that they get up to speed as fast as possible, because we want to see this close rate go up, where we basically bring in somebody new, their close rate tanks, and then we want to lift them up and get them as close to or better than your close rate when you were running the sales process. So training and management is very different than you being in the sales seat. It requires different skill sets, maybe some things that are more uncomfortable, maybe a little foreign to you. That's okay. What you want to do is install a cadence of a few things. So one is call review and role play or practice. And so if somebody that you bring in is running discovery calls, you want to be able to watch those calls. And you want to watch those calls and give them targeted feedback. Hey, you did this great and you did this great. You forgot this critical question when you were pre-qualifying. Give them the feedback. You want to be able to cycle through that as many times as possible, especially early on, right, when they're ramping up. Over time, you can back off that cadence a little bit, but ideally you would not delete any of that. You always want to have some component of call review. You also want to be able to do that for the first appointment. And this one is, they're longer meetings. You might have to get a little recorder that person can bring to the appointment. You probably won't be able to get that one on video, which is just something that you'll be missing, and that's okay. But you definitely want to get the audio portion so you can listen to how well are they following the script, are they asking all the right questions, and then you definitely want to be able to listen and hear how do they present the RDO or the design offer that you have, and how are they communicating the value, how are they walking through that. And that way you can give them tips, you can give them critiques, you can say, hey, you missed this, hey, we need to emphasize this more, you forgot this step right here, really like how you did this, really like how you did this. And so that's what that call review process looks like. The role player practice is you're actually going to just pretend that you're the prospect, and then you're just going to run through. You're going to say, hey, cool, I just called you up, let's go through it. And then they start the script and they practice it, and that's how you can give them a lot more reps and a lot more feedback in a short time window. And you can hear and listen for, do they actually really understand the script, or are they kind of hesitating or kind of going, oh yeah, this is the next question. And they're only going to get there in terms of it just feels really natural and authentic the more times you do it. And so I just went through this process recently when we onboarded somebody, and this section here, it was just practice, practice, practice for the first several weeks, and it takes a lot of time and effort up front, but it pays big, big dividends. Remember when I talked about having somebody that will run the process better than you? Like if you set up a good process, what I realized is, hey, I've actually got a really good script. I tend to go off script as the owner, but if I have somebody where I'm saying, hey, this is the script, this works really well, when I brought on that individual, they were running through it and their close rate was much, much higher. And so I highly recommend doing a lot of practice early on, and then having a call review process. It will take time and effort. It is worth it, because we want to move, again, we want to move this close rate up to as close as we can to your close rate, or even better. And then you're going to have, metrics review is the other thing. And so you have some KPIs that you're shooting for, which is basically, hey, we need to be booking this many appointments per week or per month, and we need to be closing this many projects or this much revenue per month or per quarter. And you need to be reviewing those and making sure that they're hitting those. Now, in the ramp up, there's a chance they won't be hitting those numbers. In the ramp up, you may co-run some first appointments. Hey, you're coming with me so you can see how this is done. Hey, you're coming with me, I want you to run the first part of this meeting, and then I'll start jumping in. Hey, you're coming with me, you're going to run almost all the meeting, and I'm going to jump in just for the last part, the pitch. And then, hey, you're going to come with me, I want you to run the whole thing, and I'm just going to be backup for any of those kind of one-off questions that you may be unfamiliar with. And while you're doing all of these where you're co-running, you're documenting what are all these questions that come up, because you probably just know the answer in your head, but now your new rep is going, hey, they asked this. What's the answer to that? Cool, we're writing that down, we're adding the answer, and now those are things they can practice, they can memorize, they know how to answer them. And so that is a totally okay and probably a great way to ramp them up. Is you can hand this one off pretty quickly and they can run that solo. This one you may want to co-run several of those before you really feel confident sending them out on their own, and that's okay. And if that process takes 3 months or 6 months, it's fine. When I finally successfully hired a salesperson that was going to run the whole process for me without me involved, I just told myself, I said, you know what? It's going to take a year to get them fully ramped up and fully trained. I think it took 9.5 or 10 months was when the first deal came in, the whole process was followed, and then a deal closed, and I never even touched it. And if you have that mentality, I think you'll be a lot happier going through this process, knowing like, this will be a year, this is an investment in my business in making sure that I can remove myself from sales. So we want to make sure you have a review process, you're practicing, and you're reviewing metrics to make sure they're not falling off. You will probably know that they're falling off just based on how the calls are going. You're going, oh, we probably could have said that differently, should have asked this, like that's probably why we lost that deal. The key here is that you are the coach. You're not on the field anymore. And so you are when you're co-running it, but you're the coach now. And so you're guiding them, you're mentoring them, you're making sure that they go into all these meetings well prepared, and they're professional, and they're running them the right way. All right, let's move to the fifth and final step in removing yourself from sales, which is the comp plan and guardrails. So, how do we pay this person? And we talked about earlier that you're going to increase your overhead on the sales side. You're going to pay someone a salary when you were just paying yourself to do all this, and then you're going to pay marketing to ramp up the lead flow. So typically we're going to have some sort of base salary, and then we'll have commissions. Now, I tend to operate at about like a 50-50 split of whatever their on-target earnings is. So that OTE, which is on-target earnings, which is what do you want them to make? What did they want to make? What's that final like income? And so I like about half coming from base and half coming from commission. So if their OTE was, say, 120 grand, then they might have the 60K in base, and then if they hit their numbers, then they're going to have 60K in commissions. So that's how that works. So I like kind of around a 50-50 split. In this business, if their base is too low, then they will be more inclined to sell projects that are not good for the business just to get projects in the door and earn some commissions. If the base is too high, then they can kind of get away with low performance and they can still kind of live their life and they're surviving okay. And so I found that in this industry, kind of that mix of 50-50 roughly is a good balance. The base is enough to kind of cover some of their basic needs and everything, but they're really going to want to hit at least, half their commissions or 25% or so. They're going to need some of those commissions. And so you want that balance there. So that's a starting place to put their comp. Now we need to talk guardrails. So guardrails are around project type and project size. You can also do it around area or location. And so the way this works is because you're thinking, cool, how does somebody that doesn't really know our business, how can I be sure that they're not bringing in the wrong types of projects or anything like that? You can say, we only sell kitchens, bathrooms, basements, and additions. And if you get an opportunity for something outside of that, it needs owner approval. And if you sell something outside of that without owner approval, you don't get a commission. So what are approved projects and what are needs approval projects? So you form that list, you get to decide, and then if they sell something that's not on the approved list, they don't get a commission. So they have no incentive to sell it unless they get approval. I like this process because one, it doesn't involve you in everything. If it's a standard project that you guys tackle all the time, they're just green light to go sell it. If it's something a little different, but you as the owner might say yes to it occasionally, depending on the situation, it's a one-off. But in order for it to say, get the yes or get the no, they run it by you, you look at it, you say, yep, go ahead and pursue it, cool, we keep going. Or you say no, and then it's out. You pair that with project size, and that way they don't sell a $5,000 kitchen where you're like, are you insane? You just sold a $5,000 kitchen. You can have a minimum. And so you can say, hey, for bathrooms, our project minimum is X. For kitchens, our project minimum is Y, and so on. And if something is going to be below the minimum, they need approval. And if they sell it below the minimum, then they don't get the commission. And then the final one would be area. And again, most people have a radius or cities and towns they work in. If something's like kind of on the bubble, it's another one-off, right? It's like, they're technically outside of our area, but not that much more. Do we want it? It's for this type of a project. They can get approval on it. And so if you cover all of these, you can kind of sleep a lot better at night knowing that your sales rep isn't just selling all this random stuff. They've got some guardrails, but then they also don't limit your growth or your desire to maybe take on a few things that are outside of the guardrails, because you say, hey, if it's outside the guardrails, bring it to me and I'll either approve it or I won't. So this works really, really well. The other thing I do want to hit on with commissions is that this can and I think should be split into two commissions. One commission is paid when they sell the design, and then one commission is paid when the construction project actually closes. Even if they're not involved in design, and the rest of the team is making sure the design gets executed and the construction project gets sold, you want them to sell the design. So they should get some sort of kicker. It could be 10% of, maybe they get $500 on this $5,000 thing. Cool. So now they can sell designs. You don't want to make this a huge part of their comp, because then all they want to do is sell design and they don't really care if the construction project closes, which is probably all you care about. So you want them to feel that like dopamine hit. Cool, I close one of these, I get a little kicker, this is really nice. I'm starting to get paid. They get paid quicker because this happens faster. But then you want a bigger chunk to get paid when the actual construction project gets signed and it meets these criteria. And so if it meets the criteria and then that gets signed, then they get the rest of their commission on that. But I would make this a smaller percentage of the commission just to ensure that they're really interested in selling the whole deal. So meaningful enough that they like selling these and they're motivated to keep selling those, but not enough that they're going to make their way all the way to their commission numbers just selling designs that never pan out. So that's the balance you're looking for there. So that is the 5 steps as we laid them out. In video 1, we covered documenting your sales process, creating your design offer, and increasing lead flow. In this video, we covered training and management, and then comp plan and guardrails. I found that you need all of these to really successfully remove yourself from that sales seat. And again, you become a sales manager, a sales coach. You're still involved in sales. Again, you're approving stuff. There's going to be questions, but you're not going on every single call, every single meeting, answering all the follow-up questions. You're not sending all the follow-up emails and follow-up calls and texts to get deals signed and across the line. And so you get a lot of your time back. And so you can pour that into other areas of the business. And so what this ultimately looks like is, before you have this system installed, you are answering all the calls and you're on all the calls. You're running the meetings. You're driving, you're going to the meetings, you're in the meetings, you're driving back, you're doing all the follow-ups. And you close all the deals. And what we want to do is shift this to a system that scales and doesn't cap your business. So after you got all this in place, you got reviewing calls. and you don't have to review every single call. And the nice thing is you can usually review these calls on 1.5 or 2x speed. So there is real savings there. You know, you're reviewing the meetings as well. Same thing applies to both of those. You're coaching and you're training. And so you're doing, you know, a lot of the call review and the role play, the practice. So you can give them that real-time feedback as they're practicing the script, practicing asking the questions, practicing their tone, you know, their body language. You can give them all that kind of feedback. You are reviewing the pipeline and the metrics. And then you are leading both the sales team and the company. And you have a lot of that time back to make sure that you can be that leader across the entire organization. The nice thing is too, once you have fully gone through this process the one time, now it's a system, you know how it works, you can do that a second time. And so then that's where you really start to look at the scalability and you go, well, I want to hire a second person. I need a lot more leads. I better double my lead flow again so I can hire that second person, and now I have 2 people going after this. So again, if you want some one-to-one customized help from me, I've gone through this process myself. I'm taking on a few clients where I'll work through this process with you to make sure you can build it out and remove yourself from sales. Send an email to radio@builderfunnel.com and mention the 5-step framework, removing yourself from sales, and we can get you some details on that. If you don't want my help, hopefully these 2 videos have covered this process in a way that you can start to piece together some of this so that over time you can get to a spot where you have removed yourself from sales. And I can tell you the first deal that comes into your company that you didn't touch at all, it is a very, very freeing experience. And so I highly recommend that even if you're not at the point today, start working on some of these things, especially step 1 and step 2. Those are really powerful steps. Those will help you close at a higher rate as well. So when you do hire that person, you've seen this in action and you have that confidence to train them because you know the system works. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Builder Funnel TV.